Hahn joins us here for a few minutes on Big Board Sports, reacting to Week 6 in the NFL season. And I'm sure if I were to guess, Alan, I would say the Odell Beckham Jr. Touchdowns and what followed might be somewhere at the top of your show prep today.
Yeah, I would say that's probably the first thing we get to, since we spend a lot of time talking about him. And I mean, you'd want to talk about the performance, but I think, it depends on which performance, the one on the field or the one after touchdowns.
Yeah.
The histrionics, everything else. It's why in the summer I said I'm concerned about him because he's got diva tendencies, and it's proving me right this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's a twofold story. He's the best player in the football field. He won the game for the Giants yesterday, 4th and 1. They're going to lose that game, and we'd be talking a different tune this morning. They lost 4 games in a row. Now,
right.
Now maybe he saves the season, all that stuff. But then you have to go, all right, he goes over there and, proposes to Annette. I mean, that's
funny. Yeah. If you say that just out loud, right? Like, he proposed to Annette. You're thinking Funicello? I mean, that's fine. But it was actually literally a net that he proposed to.
Yeah. I mean, where do you personally, do you like this at all? Can you make a case somebody called earlier and said, look, you know what? There could be a lot of worse things. It's not the end of the world here.
Yeah.
That he's, you get to this.
I'll tell you a story. So, years back when I was a beat writer, when I was covering the Islanders, the general manager was Mike Milbury. And there was a player on the team who was an agitator kind of guy, but he was his own teammates he would agitate. He was that guy. He was kind of selfish, but he played his butt off. He played hard, and he had a good year that year. And so it was always like the question of, are you just going to put up with some of the stuff he's doing where he complains to the coach and you see him kind of get fiery in practice and whatever. And Milbury had this line, and I'll have to clean it up a little bit, but what makes him a blank is what makes him good. And so I always say, for Odell, if this is what makes him good, then you kind of have to live with it, right? If this is the kind of stuff that makes him great. Because, there's times where you've seen players who are emotional, and they're told, you got to tone it down, right? Squelch it. Then they can't be that same player because they feel like they're being controlled or under control. They have to be so concerned about controlling their emotions that they can't play with that same spirit that helps them be one of the best. So I think as a Giants fan, or even the Giants organization, you got to look at it that way. What makes him a blank is what makes him good. Well, then you got to let him be that blank.
As long as like a 15 on sportsmanlike conduct penalty doesn't hurt you. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly right. And he did acknowledge that after the game that, he's lucky it didn't cost him. But in a way, is that the way he has to learn? That it should have cost him. And maybe then, he would realize, taking your helmet off for everybody to see who you are. We all know who you are. We all know your number. We all know who you are. You don't have to take the helmet off. But he did it. He got away with it. And I don't know if that's a good thing or long-term a bad thing for the Giants.
Hey, Alan, Zach by joining Roger here in studio. I have to ask you this, and this is something that we just talked with Pat Leonard about from the New York Daily News, is, okay, so we know Odell Beckham Jr. loves attention, and we got that. But is his antics actually taking away from the substance that has him that attention in the first place? Do you follow me on that?
Yeah, I do. I know exactly what you mean, because it was the catch, right, that really we all noticed him, 2 years ago, that incredible catch. And what we used to talk about was his amazing ability to catch the ball with one hand and amazing ability to come up with just spectacular catches and produce. That's what we used to talk about with him. Remember, when everybody, they have B-roll. They call it B-roll in TV. All right, you have the talking heads on TV in the studio, blah, 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 blah.
Hey, I'm a talking head, Alan.
Right? No, I'm talking about on TV now. In the radio, we don't get B-roll. All right? We got to just keep talking. But the guys, after a while, they turn into the teacher from Peanuts. You don't hear what the guy's saying anymore. You just see Odell highlights. And it used to be when Odell came up, it was the catch. It was 400 different angles of that catch. Now what is it? It's him getting hit by the net, him going over to the net and giving it a hug, and then him now proposing to the net. Like, you see how it's changed? So that's where I think you're right, is that it used to be about his amazing ability to catch the ball. And now it's the stuff after the fact. And if I was him, I wouldn't want that.
We're talking with Alan Hahn, Hahn and Humpty coming up at 12 noon. How about this team's performance as a whole? Is there any reason to believe that win yesterday and what Odell did can have a carryover effect, and then they figure out some stuff here and piece together some wins?
Well, it should, but they're going to London. That's always odd. So you wonder if momentum will carry, or will they lose it somewhere across the Atlantic? Because those are hard trips to make, and it's just a different setup. So I don't know how momentum works on those kind of weeks. But I'll say this: if the safety and the cornerback don't run into each other, Odell doesn't get a 66-yard touchdown to win the game. I mean, they ran into each other. Yeah. It wasn't anything spectacular on the route. They just ran into each other. So. They got the goal line stop. It was good to see that their defense came up big in the second half at times. But they were losing that game, remember. They were losing that game, and it took that kind of a play where two players run into each other, and he gets open and is able to turn it into a touchdown for them to win that game. So I think it's a mixed reaction because the Ravens had a lot of injuries up front. They lose Suggs as well. They lost Smith in the cornerback situation. So, I don't know how you're supposed to feel coming out of this game, but the most important thing was the result, and that's the fact that they won it. And so build from here, that's what they're going to have to do.
All right, how about one more? Jets tonight at Arizona. I think their season's done anyway. They lose tonight, it's really done. You give them a chance to go to Arizona and win this game tonight?
They have to. I'm calling it a traction game. To me, because if you look at the schedule coming up, what's after this, or a banged-up Ravens team, and then the Browns, and, things they have the easiest schedule now in the second half than anybody in the NFL. So, to me, this is that traction game. You win this wild card. That second wild card, take a look at the standings. Nobody. Everybody's 2-4, it seems. So, you get this game, and then you get yourself a little traction, the schedule helps you out, and then you start taking advantage of the schedule at that point, and maybe you can turn things around. But I'm with you, though. 1-5. Now it's time to get Bryce Petty ready.
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt. No doubt. If they lose this game, they've got to do that. Alan, you guys have a great show today. In an hour, we'll keep the seat warm for me leading up to your show at 12.
Awesome. Thanks, boys. Take care.
All right, man. Take care. Alan Hahn, part of Hahn and Humpty.